Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, go and check out our other videos. In this video, we move on to Bart the General, Season 1, Episode 5 of The Simpsons.
Now, we're going to start off with the opening sequence, or should we say lack of opening sequence. Now, taking out of account the Christmas episode, the first episode of the series, this is sort of the first official main series
where it just goes on to the episode.
Yeah, no couch gag.
No chalkboard.
Yeah. The reasoning for this is timing, basically.
Yeah, the episode, basically, they're running out of time to do the episode.
Yeah, it's been a common trait over the years. If the episode's running long, they'll either shorten the opening sequence, or they'll just, like this episode, just cut the entire opening scene out and just go straight to the episode. Or they'll go the other way. If they need to make time up, they'll extend it. But that's basically all that was all about in this one. Just basically, they had too much. They couldn't get rid of anything, or there wasn't enough to get rid of, so they just cut out that completely.
So, first off, let's start with debut characters.
We'll start with Herman.
Who's a bit part character.
Yeah, he's a bit part character in the series, and although he contributes to this episode, it's not as much as the other debut character.
Yeah, and his voice is portrayed, well, I don't know if they're portraying it, but it's George W. Bush Sr., where he's obsessed with war. He wants to win the war because Bart's getting bullied.
Yeah, and with his voice as well. I'm not saying that it's portrayed directly as George W. Bush's his voice, but if you listen to this alongside the episode 2 Bad Neighbours, where George W. Bush moves into Evergreen Terrace, if you listen to both voices side by side, they are very similar, if not the exact same voice. So from this one, they were trying to make Herman sound like George W. Bush, just because of, at the time, the whole wanting to start a war over nothing, basically.
Over cupcakes.
Yeah, over cupcakes. 2 10-year-olds, one boy and the other. Instead of dealing with it in a sensible manner, we'll just start a war with water balloons and such what.
Going on.
Also, this one starts... Well, there was rumours that there was a trend going to start with his missing arm.
Yeah, they were going to do different stories of how he lost his arm, basically.
But just like the voice, because I think his voice changes later on in the series.
It does change a bit.
They just drop the entire angle, so this episode's the only one we get an explanation. So his backstory is, it was ripped off when he put it out of the school bus window. Yeah,
because if you go back to the previous episodes where Mrs. Krabappel...
it's going on about when Bart's messing around about... We all know the story of the boy who stuck his arm out the window and had it ripped off by an oncoming truck, which Bart plays up as him being the one who that was for. It was his arm. So there's slight nods. If you take out the fact they were trying to develop it into a running gag and just stick with the fact of, no, that's what they went with, the arm being ripped off. Was he that child that had his arm ripped off? But yeah, there's not really much more to say about him, and he's just a nut job.
Yeah, he is completely.
Wants war at whatever costs. So we'll move on to the other debuting character,
Nelson Muntz,
and basically one that remains in the series to this day. So
with this character in this episode, he's portrayed as a tougher bully, but then as the series goes on, he seems to get soften his character up.
Just soften it up. It's just a million miles away from what it was in this episode. Now, personally, for us too, we agree that they should never have.
No, they shouldn't have changed Nelson's character. I mean, he's one of them characters who should have stayed exactly what he was in this episode, as a tougher bully.
But they just watered him down too much to the fact that he just became like a lot of the other kids, just portrayed as being mean. Well, being the muscles basically of the group. But back here, this is what they should have kept him as. But you may have a different opinion.
Maybe you think that character was good when they changed him. That gave him a softer approach. Or maybe you agree with us that you prefer this character to stay the same as this episode. comment down below.
Comment down below on that one.
And another two, they're debuts, but the bit characters, Nelson's cronies.
Yeah, because they're in this episode. They're in
the Soapbox Derby Racer episode.
Yeah, and apart from that, I think they're the only classic Simpsons episodes that they're in. They do appear in a later episode, but it's just as a throwaway gag. So they're basically obviously just brought in to be Nelson's henchmen.
They pretend they're hard, but really they're only hard when Nelson's around, basically.
And it was one of them that started the whole.
Yeah, one of them started the Cupcake War in the first place. Started the bullying, because if it wasn't for one of them taking Lisa's cupcake at the school, then Nelson wouldn't have grabbed Bart, because Bart runs at him because protecting Lisa. And Bart swings his fists around and accidentally catches Nelson in the nose. Then none of it would have happened.
Yeah, and that's another thing with Bart in this one. He goes through a couple of different stages from the beginning. You start off with the cupcakes being cooked off, and along with Homer,
and then he's crying.
Ribbing Lisa about it, how she's sucking up to Miss Hoover, trying to get her grades improved. But this is like the first episode where it's really hinted that she has brains, because she sort of turns around and basically said, no, I'll get good grades because I work hard.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying, yeah, she is a smart one. And basically, yeah, Bart just keeps going on about it. So he's ribbing her.
Yeah, on the bus, yeah, because she actually gives Otto a cupcake on the bus, which didn't please Bart very much. So as they were sat down, Bart was ribbing her, but then Lisa changes.
Well, she tries to get him to be nice and apologetic.
Yeah, and then Bart does try to be sympathetic and starts to suck up to Lisa because he wants the cupcake. And as the bus starts to come to a stop, a bump in the road means the cupcake falls on the floor, because Lisa told Bart to close his eyes. She shoves the cupcake in his mouth, and Bart goes, "Thanks, Lisa."
And then it subsequently moves on to this point where he's sticking up for her, and I think this is a first for the series as well. I think they've always been portrayed as the bickering siblings.
They are, yeah.
But yeah, again, this whole story just starts off on cupcakes.
He's a bit of a different character, Bart, in this one, because the previous episode, Bart was more of a rebel, would you say? And in this one, he was soft, but then at the end of the episode, he gains a bit more.
Yeah, well, I think it was more the fact. I know you're trying to say with that, but they put him up against at this time a tougher opponent. So it just showed. But again, Bart was never shown as hard. He
went hard, but he was a bit more of a rebel.
Yeah, but yeah, this basically shows Bart's vulnerable side.
Yeah, it does. I think that's what they were getting because of the war aspect of the episode. I think that's probably.
Yeah, and just the fact the Principal Skinner's appearance in this, it just.
You want a principal like him, don't you?
The authority figure is not that good.
No, you want a principal like him, don't you? I mean, he sees Bart getting bullied by Nelson outside, and he goes, "He'll get you after school."
But again, that might just be the case of it's not my problem once the end of school goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this just leads to Bart having a couple of daydreams during the day. And again, 10-year-old boy, imagination goes wild.
Yeah, he dreams that Nelson's a big, massive monster, Bart running up the stairs.
He can survive having knives thrown at him, which just look like cocktail sticks when they hit him. Yeah, shooting him with a machine gun.
And then he eats the machine gun.
And then
Bart getting yeah.
And yeah, that's his first one. Then he has another one where Nelson has beaten to death, basically. And it is hinting in that one that's like, oh yeah, he's got such a vivid imagination that Nelson's just basically disfigured him in this one.
Yeah, because I have Otto and Principal Skinner.
Yeah, they're basically talking. Otto's basically talking about how good he looks, and it's like Skinner just basically turns around and is like, yep, school nurse did a good job reconstructing his face, sort of thing. But then he captures every school kid. It's like, I'm not saying they all think that way, but Milhouse, who in this one still isn't portrayed really as being a close friend.
Yeah, just a person you go to school with at this I think at this time.
Yeah, he just, when he's going up to the coffin, he's like, "Thanks, Bart, I got the day off from school for this." And then Homer chirps up.
Oh, typical Homer.
Yeah, I got the day off from work. Even though Marge quickly doesn't make him see his way, but it's just like, as soon as she has a go, it's like, oh yeah, but what's that when I don't get to see my son ever again?
And in this one, how did he know that Lisa weren't going to give him the cupcake in the stream anyway?
Yeah, because there was the point where Lisa comes up, it's like, she's apologetic and like, if I'd actually given you the cupcake all along, maybe none of this would have happened. But up to this point, as far as Bart knows,
he didn't have a coil.
He
weren't going to get a
cupcake. He didn't know it was. But again, nitpick. But then,
well, why would you invite the person who actually killed you to the funeral anyway?
Yeah, it's like we're trying to say the justice system's that good in Springfield that you can kill a person. And, well, to be fair, although we haven't really seen much of Chief Wiggum, I mean, he's not exactly the most bright.
Oh no, he's not. No,
it's like, yeah, I can see him like, oh yeah, he killed him, or whatever. And with Judge Snyder, boys will be boys.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably how he got off of it. But yeah, that one's that he obviously tries to sneak away from the proceedings, but just he doesn't escape. He gets
because Nelson goes, put your hands up. Bart puts his hand up, gets punched in the face about 5 times. Gets thrown into a dustbin, which has got
homing signal on it.
Yeah, exactly.
It suddenly goes from school to home, even though it rolls down so many hills. It's like, it must have a tracking system for the Simpsons house in it.
Then Bart goes into the house, goes through the living room. Marge sees Bart a bit upset. Bart goes into the bathroom, into the bath. Homer walks in. Homer says Marge thinks you've.
Yeah, basically it starts a point of Homer and Marge having different views on it.
Because she overhears Bart telling Homer that a boy.
Once Bart opens up about what's happened, Homer's more about the fact, you need to basically toughen up and fight.
But it's the code. But first of all, you go to code of the schoolyard. Pick on people different than you.
Marge wants him to go to an authority figure, and then that's sort of whole code of the schoolyard conversation. But then she tries to get reason into it that he's only doing this because he's not the brightest spark.
Yeah, he's in the same classes as special classes as Bart, basically.
So he's just acting out because of that. Obviously, Marge doesn't know. At this point, we don't know Nelson's backstory.
No, we don't at this point.
He's just a bully. It's just the general trope. Oh, they're just acting out because of what's going on at school, sort of thing.
Then Homer tries to teach Bart how to punch, basically.
Yeah, and apparently the family jewels are a Simpsons trait.
Yeah, even though they've been in the world of fighting for what? A long, long time.
And this subsequently just ends up with the next day. Bart going through the same... Well, he throws mud in Nelson's eyes.
Yeah, because then he has Homer in his ear, the family jewels, son.
But it ends up with the same thing. He tries to fight, but he gets shoved
Trash can again. And another homing device.
The homing device. Exactly.
That's when, as he gets to the house, Lisa goes, tells him to go to see Grandpa because of the fight he put up when he was going into the home.
Yeah, and this is another thing with Grandpa. In this episode, he's not that senile old man that would be portrayed as in most other episodes. He's actually
got that feistiness in this episode.
He's got feistiness, even though there is that brief conflict with
Jasper,
who actually gets a speaking role in this one. So you might say this is his first official episode, even though he appeared a couple of episodes back. But yeah, puts up a fight with that, but subsequently loses.
That's when he goes, I'm not the one to help you. I know someone who is.
But at the same point, he's still portrayed as more strong in this one.
In this episode, Homer takes a back seat. So it's Grandpa who takes more of a leading role as a father figure.
Well, for once, someone steps up and actually helps where Homer 9 times out of 10 hinders.
Yeah, he wouldn't help. He'd just get it. Yeah, he'd mess everything up, basically.
And then they say this leads to Grandpa taking Bart to see Herman. We get the whole military store scene where Herman takes over, and it's like, yeah, we need to go to war and all this sort of thing. And then obviously it leads to Bart getting the troops together. He sends a letter out about if you don't like Nelson, you have problems.
Yeah.
It's treehouse. 1500 hours. Then close brackets, 3 p.m. because apparently kids don't know the 24-hour clock. But then it's like
Bart's late.
Late because he's been beat up again by Nelson and somehow swallowed his cat, which he can cough up the spring of a hat.
But then he goes, I can't promise you victory. I can't promise you good times, but
then backtracks when
they're trying to walk off, basically.
Yeah. And basically it's like they just lead into the water balloons, which unfortunately just say happy birthday, even though Herman wants, well, preferred they said death from above.
Yeah.
And then you just get, like, you get the training scene, Bart putting him through the paces. You just got him basically as trying to act as a tough general.
Yeah, you've got that kid who's sat down because there's a dark barking dog. Bart slaps him. Then you have Grandpa telling him that you can push him off a cliff.
You can march him off to war, but for some reason you can't slap them.
And apologise that. Well, no.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of music in the background of that. That was taken from the film Platoon, which was produced by Jerry Goldsmith. They didn't have problems with it because Fox actually owned the rights to the movie, so there was no copyright infringement there at all. There's also a point in that, getting towards the end, you just see the kids running across the yard, and you just see the silhouette of them in Bart's sunglasses, and that was taken from Stanley Kubrick's 1987 film Full Metal Jacket. Basically, once this is all said and done and they're all trained up, you then lead to the fight. Well, Bart first, he goes up to Nelson. Nelson still has the bully. Oh, you're going to fight me, you and whose army?
That's when they're all crowding round.
And it's subsequently just like him and his two cronies are just bombarded with water balloons, basically. To the point where they've won the war, and basically tie Nelson up, wheel him back to Simpsons' house. But even at that point, Nelson's still putting up a fight. The fact he's saying once he gets untied, he's still going to beat Bart to death.
Yeah, that's when Bart realised, I'll have to untie him eventually.
Herman
planned for this to happen anyway.
He's that much of a war freak. He's got a treaty ready to be signed. Basically outlines it as Nelson doesn't shake kids down for lunch money anymore, but he still gets to act as a menace in the neighbourhood.
Funny thing in the episode, going back to when they were throwing water balloons, Nelson's, as they were like crowded round, Nelson's cronies go, we were just taking orders, so they back off, even though it was one of them originally who started the whole war.
But I think that
in the first place.
I think that just
robbing the cupcake.
Does the old thing of like, yeah, some bullies are tough as bullies when they know they've got backup or they've got a stronger one. So I think that's the whole point of that one. It's like, yeah, we're tough because of Nelson being there, but now Nelson's being portrayed as vulnerable as well because he's the one who's taking the main attack.
Yeah.
And as soon as that happens, they've lost their armour. And it's just like, yeah, we don't want anything to do with this. Even
though Nelson didn't start it, in a sense.
Yeah, he didn't start it, but obviously they knew Nelson was going to step in. That's why they were doing that.
Yeah.
Again, as I say, it's the bully. Some bullies are bullies because of the fact that they hang around in the groups, or they've got a tougher bully there to basically hide behind and be like, oh yeah, we're tough.
Yeah.
But,
and that's the whole premise of this episode is basically that there's no, in our opinion, no need for war to solve everything, basically.
Yeah, because it's without the treaty, Nelson was still gonna beat Bart up anyway.
Yeah.
So if that treaty wasn't there, it was still going to be the same thing. It's just a case of, it's basically saying unless you defeat your opponent to a point where you've got them at your mercy, nothing's really going to change unless you've got something for them to actually sign off so you can get peace from it. It's just basically, yeah, we won the war, but they still want to fight us once we let our guard down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is like you say, war doesn't solve anything unless you've got to...
But that's what they were trying to get at,
yeah.
I think.
So, yeah, basically, war doesn't solve anything unless you've got a piece of paper to sign or some form of anything to be like, yeah, we're calling it a truce.
Were they actually mocking it anyway by saying a cupcake, or it started by a cupcake?
I think they were just... I don't know mocking it,
Not
but
mocking it,
I think they were probably trying to say that, yeah, a war can start over for anything, and in this case, something as minute as cupcakes. But yeah, now there's a few more references in here, along with the ones I mentioned earlier. The scene where Lisa is kissed by the sailor, or the boy in a sort of sailor suit, and she slaps him, that is from a photograph taken on VJ Day,
which is Victory Japan Day.
In Victory Japan Day, the same thing, basically the iconic image of the sailor kissing the woman. So yeah, that's where that one's from. Bart concludes this episode, trying to bring it all full circle. This is again why we think that it's basically saying war is no good.
Yeah.
He basically ends it by basically the paraphrasing of there is no good wars except for American Revolution, World War II, and the Star Wars trilogy. Now, with the reception of this episode...
reception of this episode, well, when it first was aired, it finished 31st place in the weekly tapings of January the 29th to February the 4th, 1990. Now, since the episode's been repeated after repeats, it's been received as mostly positive reviews from the television critics. Now, we'll move on to now the positive and the negative aspects of this episode. Now, the positives being the war aspect, which they were right in the sense that war doesn't solve everything.
Yeah, but basically, as I said previously, the fact of, yeah, you can fight all you want, but at the end of the day, it all counts for nothing.
Conflict doesn't solve everything, basically.
But yeah, Nelson positive in this episode because the portrayal they had of him, no matter what they did to him later on, you actually got a good character out of this one.
Grandpa was a positive in this episode.
Yeah, Grandpa is the main male authority
the tougher
figure.
Simpson in this one.
Yeah, even after what they did to him in later episodes, it's basically his episode to shine. Negatives. Now, would you say Herman's a bit of a negative, just wanting war?
Yeah, you would say that. Yeah,
and the fact he's that much of.
He's obsessed with war to win the war.
That he wants to basically start this war between two 10-year-olds where this could probably be solved in so many other different ways. Although Homer doesn't want to do it, Homer and Marge could go down to the school and request a meeting with Principal Skinner and maybe Nelson's parents, who we don't see in this episode. Although, to be fair, we've only really seen his mum fully. We've seen his dad, but they've reimagined him so many times. We don't even know who his dad is. I mean, there's the rumours and the fan theories that Barney could be his dad. Or some people even said that Barney is the adult version of Nelson. But that's a different story for a different day on that one. Any other negatives?
Well, that's the main negative, and I don't see them being much more of a negative, really.
Yeah, I mean, you could say Homer's a negative, but let's face it, the majority of episodes...
The characters actually swap in this one, Grandpa and Homer. Homer becomes more of a...
Has Homer really been that that major male authority figure. Because he sees.
Yeah, probably not. Because if Homer took control, he would have ruined it, wouldn't he?
The only episode that he really shows a decent side to himself is when he loses his job at the power plant. But at the same point, he has to go through that whole depression stage, and even then, I don't think he gets to that point of what Grandpa is in this one, because I don't think it's been seen yet. Homer as a really positive parental figure. I think, as I say, the first male parental authority figure that Bart has is Grandpa. So, yeah, Homer's not, apart from taking a back seat in this one, it's just a typical Homer performance. He either doesn't care about the kids, or he tries too hard and just gives the wrong advice. It all depends on which way you look at it with Marge as well. Even though she's sending Homer to talk to Bart, she still gets involved anyway.
Yeah, I know.
She still has to eavesdrop, and whether she's right or not, she's telling Homer to sort it out, but obviously she doesn't believe that Homer's gonna solve the problem, so she has to interfere in it.
Well, he wouldn't have solved the problem, would he?
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's basically.
And that's it for the episode, and I don't think we've covered everything, haven't we?
Yeah, there's not anything else to add. I don't think really. I think we've covered it pretty much.
Right. Thanks very much for listening to this video. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below if we've missed any parts of this episode which you feel you need to comment on, or if you think there's another positive or another negative.
Anything you agree on, disagree on with us, that you think needs to be addressed, comment on that as well.
And that concludes the episode and the review of this video, and we'll see you in the next one.